On the 29th of August 2000, Adam Nash was born, designed with one purpose, to save his sister Molly's life. Adam Nash is the world's first Saviour sibling. Adam's sister Molly was suffering from a rare genetic condition called Fanconi anemia that can cause bone marrow failure and also increases the likelihood of developing leukemia. Tissue from Adam's umbilical cord was successfully transferred into Molly's body to give her a fighting chance at life. At less than a year old, this saviour sibling was already giving his sister the greatest gift. In this documentary, we investigate what saviour siblings are and consider whether they are ethical. We'll speak to an expert in the field and two families who both feel strongly about the issue as to whether or not the conception of a saviour sibling should be allowed in modern society. Many religious organisations have condemned the idea of a saviour sibling because they believe that doctors are playing God. There is a great controversy over the discarding of embryos during the embryonic screening process, in which an appropriate embryo is selected. Embryos that are not needed are discarded and, in the view of many, killed. So, is this loss of potential life justifiable, or are doctors crossing a line in medicine and ethics by taking control over nature?
Fanconi anemia is a rare genetic disease that causes bone marrow failure, where the blood production is insufficient, and it also predisposes sufferers to leukemia. A bone marrow transplant is a treatment that cures the bone marrow failure, but if there are no matches with donors on the register, then a saviour sibling can be conceived. IVF is done to produce embryos, and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, or PGD, is then done to eliminate those with the faulty gene that causes Fanconi anemia. And at the same time, HLA typing is also done to see which of the normal embryos match the sibling's DNA, so that there is no risk of transplant rejection. These embryos are then implanted into the woman's uterus, and unsuitable ones are discarded. 9 months later, when the baby is born, the stem cells in the umbilical cord blood can be taken and transplanted into the bone marrow of the sibling. The stem cells then multiply and produce red blood cells, which treats the bone marrow failure.
A few years ago, when 3-year-old Sophie Lewis was diagnosed with Fanconi anemia, the Lewis family decided to undergo the Saviour sibling treatment in America, and were one of the first families in which the treatment was used.
I remember my heart just sinking. David and I had never heard of this condition before, and it was unbelievable. The first thing the doctor said is that we need a bone marrow transplant.
Amy and I immediately volunteered our own, but the doctor said there was little chance of it being a match. When the doctor said we had the option to have a saviour sibling, our first thoughts were initially optimistic. We thought it would be as simple as having another child. However, when we were told about the process and we realised that embryos would be discarded, we realised that meant destroying lives.
We're not religious, but it just feels wrong to destroy embryos. Our main concern was Sophie's life, and we went ahead with the treatment. Some say that creating a life for the purpose of saving another is immoral, but I don't agree with that. Megan wasn't just born to save Sophie's life. We wanted another child anyway, and we love Sophie just as much as we do Megan.
No, I don't really have a choice in the matter, but I can totally see how Mum and Dad did it. I don't agree with people who say that I've been used. Even if Sophie is a bit annoying sometimes, I wouldn't have wanted her to die. In fact, I think it's kind of cool that I saved her life and part of me is inside of her.
Megan is my sister. We don't treat her differently just because she was conceived differently. We don't treat her as a thing born from a lab just to provide spare parts for me. It's not like that at all, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her.
But the saviour sibling treatment is opposed by many religious groups. Some feel that human life is not a commodity. 35-year-old charity worker Charlie Phillips tells us his story.
When Joseph was diagnosed with Fanconi anemia and AML, he was around 8 years old, and Catherine already went through several miscarriages, and it wasn't something we were keen on trying, even though it could have saved Joseph's life. We talked to our priest at our church. We're firm believers that whatever will be, will be. Our priest told us that discarding the embryos is the same as killing lives. We also thought of the emotional trauma of a child knowing that he was born just to save Joseph's life. God gave us this world and this life to protect and enjoy. We can't just use people for spare parts, even if it is to cure somebody.